All right. Welcome to Atlanta. We're live in Atlanta. My name is Steven. This is Contemporary Speaks, where we discuss things to change for the better. Amen. So that's a good thing. Today we're talking about three things: using failure, understanding yourself, and how to grow. So I think it's going to be a very great podcast. Go ahead and text somebody. Thank you guys for tuning in. And so here we go.
Get ready for some positive, encouraging, inspiring information. But before we jump into this episode, I'd like to invite you to join this community to hear more episodes that will help you become healthier emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. All I want you to do is click on the subscribe button. We love your support, and it's incredible to see all your comments, and we're just getting started. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to us.
All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us in-house. Thank you for joining us online. It's going to be great. We're going to go ahead and talk about a few things. First of all, I talked about using failure. The next thing is understanding yourself and how to grow. So these are the topics we're going to discuss today. And so as we get into it, what we have to understand is that failure is actually a tool. And so if we learn how to use failure, failure is an actual tool that helps us redirect our life. And so a lot of times when we have failures, we want to give up, we want to quit. But just because you fail doesn't make you a failure. Just because you lose doesn't make you a loser. And so we can't, think of ourselves of, oh my goodness, I've tried this so many times, I've failed. You just have to keep on trying, keep on running, keep on walking forward, keep on moving forward, right? I think that failure is something that really can help us become more intentional. Think about what I'm telling you today. It can help us become more intentional, meaning that when you fail, you realize how you failed. And once you realize how you failed, then the next steps you take for success are more intentional. You're more focused. You're saying, okay, I can't do this. I need to do this. And so failure is something that we need to embrace and kind of use because it is helpful, right? It becomes the challenge, right, that helps bring out the greatness that's within you. So failure becomes the challenge that really brings out excellence in your character, excellence in your behavior, excellence in your actions, right? And here's the thing, sometimes we fail. When we fail, we just crumble. And that's like, we go into this pity party, or we go into this negative sort of emotion. But one of the things that I want to kind of tell you guys is that one thing that I heard Michael Jordan say one time was that, yeah, I made this many shots, but I missed more in my life. So he's taken so many shots. And so when you think about this, it's like just because you failed doesn't mean that you cannot hit the shot. And so it's keeping that mindset of, yes, I failed. Yes, I failed once again. I love the Bible verse that says that a righteous man, though he falls 7 times, yet will he rise. What is the mindset? To continue to get up, to continue to go on, to continue to walk forward, right? So this becomes very important if you kind of think about it, right? And so here's the thing. Look at failure. I want you to have a new relationship with your failures. So look at failure as a seed that is planted in the ground, right? As though it is dead, but then later springs out new life. That's how I want you to look at your failure. Every failure is an opportunity for new life to spring out. So it's almost like, you think about it, we put dead things in the ground, right? Like we put people in the ground and things like that. You bury old things, but imagine burying your failure and you allow that to process within you, just so it can bring out a new harvest, so it can bring out a new understanding, so it can bring forth sort of some newness in your life, right? So failure doesn't define you is the key that you need to understand. It actually refines you. I'll say that one more time. Failure does not define you. It refines you. It refines you. Are you with me? And so if we understand this, here's the thing that I love that Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24. He says this, he says, because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. He says, but he who endures to the end shall be saved. And I like this because when we fail, if we just continue to endure, we will see success. If we just don't quit, if we just don't give up, right? If we just push forward, I know it hurts. Sometimes failure hurts. Sometimes failure makes you want to quit, makes you want to give up. But in your failure, if you endure, you will eventually go to this place of success. So endurance is actually the single most important attribute of success. Endurance is it. So and if you want anything to get better, your marriage, your finances, endurance is your game, right? Play the endurance game. We are in an endurance race, not a speed race. It's not a successful race based on how fast we can get it done, but we're in an endurance race. So we're just going to continue on this road and see what the end will be, right? And continue to walk on. Another thing we're going to talk about today is understanding yourself. And this is kind of important when we talk about understanding yourself. A lot of times when we understand life, we are really examining other people. And we really want to understand other people, right? And so we spend, I think, more time understanding other people than we do trying to understand us, the way we think, the way I process things. And so when I get an issue, how do I handle that? When I hear some news, good or bad, how do I deal with that? Have I spent enough time examining my own ways and kind of thinking through how do I process information? How do I feel about certain things? So this next section, take it with a grain of salt, right? It's understanding yourself. So people are not primarily, listen to this, people are not primarily driven by reason. They are primarily driven by emotion. Now think about this. If you're trying to understand yourself, this may better help you understand yourself and why you react the way you might react, right? Most people are driven by emotion, not necessarily by reason, right? Most people are not critical of themselves, no matter how wrong they are. So most people are not really critical of themselves, right? Here's the thing that we have to understand, that we are all creatures of habits. Have you ever heard that? We are creatures of habit, but we are also creatures of emotion. And most people don't realize that. We are creatures of emotion, right? Motivated by, unfortunately, ego and pride, right? And so we are creatures of emotion. And so as we understand ourselves, I understand how I operate. I do still have ego. I still do have pride, even though I don't want those things to rise up in me and lead me and guide me. Those are things I have to put in check, things that I have to park. Things that I have to say, no, you're being a little prideful in this. You're speaking out of your ego on this. And so those are things that I have to kind of manage myself, right? And so here's something as well. When you criticize people or you're critical of people, right, it puts them in a defensive mode, right? And it will actually cause them to rationalize what they're doing rather than understand what you're saying. So I'll say that one more time. When you are kind of critical of people, or you're kind of telling them, hey, this is what you're not doing right, or this is wrong with you, or things like that, people, they start to self-justify, okay? They'll go into a defensive mode, and normally what they'll do is they'll just tell you, this is the reason why I cannot do that. This is the reason why I do this, and people they operate this way. And so, this is something kind of to understand, because criticism hurts a person's pride, okay? And it also hurts their sense of importance. So when you're critical of people, it really kind of starts to, it's very difficult to understand the human psyche and the way in which it's made up, right? You're going to get more out of a person if you just encourage them. So let's just say your husband burnt the eggs. He was going to cook breakfast and he burnt the eggs and he made them hard and brown, like it's going in some fried rice or something, right? And so why? Because he was trying to watch something on YouTube and trying to cook the eggs. And you observe that and you come in, and then what do? Do you criticize? Do you say, look what you're doing? You burnt the eggs because of X, Y, Z. If you do that, you put them in the defensive mode, because then they'll start to justify. Well, no, listen, I just turned it was on low. You understand what I'm saying? So really the way to connect with others is to understand self. There's a term in the Hebrew called ahava. This means love, right? Ahava, but the way that the Hebrews understand it, it is to love one as you love yourself. So it is to love a person the way you love yourself. So that means that if you had burnt the eggs, you would want to be shown some mercy, some grace, some love. You see what I'm saying? So then what you do is, yes, there was a mistake that happened. Yes, there was something that happened that you don't agree with and that the house got smoky. and all this, but the key is how do you respond? And if you understand yourself, respond to your spouse, respond to your significant other the way you would want someone to respond to you. And so this is kind of a thing to practice. This is kind of a thing to practice. Here's something that the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 9. It says, do not correct those who make fun of wisdom, or they will hate you. But correct the wise, and they will love you. So here's the thing. We can't just expect everyone to be wise. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Wisdom and love, it originates with us. And the way I'm saying that is because a lot of times people will shut off their benevolence because they're not receiving the love back. But Jesus didn't say do that, right? He said love your enemy. So I want you to kind of think about that. If I'm going to love my enemy, I'm going to love someone who's not going to reciprocate the love. So love is not necessarily based on the reciprocation. It's not necessarily based on what I'm receiving to others. That basically me loving you, you have nothing to do with that. I'm loving you out of obedience to my Creator. Do you get that? Because a lot of people are like, well, I just need to be shown a little bit of love back. But that's not how actually it's supposed to work. In fact, the Messiah said give, not expecting even it to come back in return. And so we got to keep that in our minds, right? Because we, once again, are motivated by emotion, ego, pride. And those things will slip up on you and they'll start speaking through you before you know it, right? And so this is understanding ourselves. How do I operate? How do I work? How do I work? So these are important parts, right? People, when criticized, right, have the ability to hold resentment for a lifetime. Once you've criticized people, they will hold it for a lifetime. This is just how the psyche works, right? That they can hold on to whatever that they took as criticism for their entire life. They will carry it for their entire life. And this is why the Bible teaches us to forgive. Forgiveness is a divine attribute. Never forget that. Anytime we forgive, we are literally walking in the image of God, in the image that He created us to be. Remember, we were created in the image of God. And when Yeshua, Jesus, is on the cross, He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So if you understand that, then what you understand is that we are created in this way to mimic and to be like our Creator. And we are most like Him when we exhibit these divine virtues, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So it's very, very kind of important, right? So here's the thing that I will say, because when you are working on self and you are understanding yourself, you have to be careful of people who know how to push all of your old buttons, okay? People know how you used to be, so they'll know how to come in and push your bring your old character back up. They'll know how to get your old character to respond. Even though you're trying to change, you're trying to think positive, you're trying to walk in this different direction, you're trying to live in a different way, a better way, a healthy way, you have certain people that know this button used to be right here. Let's see if it's still here. And so you have to be careful with that, right? Here's the thing that I would say too. I'll say it this way, that you have to be careful who you let in the room. A lot of people are good enough to let into the room, but they are toxic enough to also destroy the environment. Where do I get that from? I get that from Matthew, but when He put the crowd outside. Do you remember Jesus was going to raise a little girl from the dead? And He had to put certain people out of the room. They were good enough to be there in the first place, but they also added to the toxic environment of the atmosphere. And so you have to understand, sometimes people are good enough to let into the room, but they're also toxic enough to destroy the atmosphere. And every person carries what is in them or what is in their mind into the atmosphere. I'll say that one more time. Everyone carries what is in their mind into the atmosphere. I'll say it one more time. Just really let it sink in. Everyone carries with them into the atmosphere whatever is within their mind. And listen, this is the law of God. This is the gravity of God. You don't get a say in it. If it's in the atmosphere of your mind, believe me, it'll be in the atmosphere of your conversation. It'll be in the atmosphere of your tone. It'll be in the atmosphere of your eyes. It'll be in the atmosphere of your face. The third thing we want to talk about today is how to grow. How do I grow? How do I grow? I mean, we talk about, different issues, but I think the most important issue is growth, okay? The difference between success and stagnation is action. And I think that this is the biggest thing that we miss, especially in the Christian world, is that we don't pursue any type of action. We look at that Bible verse where Jesus was on the cross, Yeshua was on the cross, and he said, "It is finished." And so we think that it's finished. We don't have to do anything. But that's really not true. Because how is that working out for you? It's probably not working out when you're not active and not really doing anything, right? So we have to really examine some things. So growth is very important, right? Learning to embrace discomfort will help you grow. Growth is all about discomfort. I remember when I was a young boy and I was coming up and my knees hurt, my elbows hurt, just my whole body hurt, and it was growing pains. It's when you go from adolescence to maturity, right? And that process in between, my chest hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I got, ow. I mean, you guys remember that? Does everybody remember that? Or know that process of growth? It's like, it's painful. So, but if you're going to grow, you're going to have to be able to embrace a little bit of discomfort. It's healthy. It's healthy for you. Just embrace a little bit of discomfort, right? Understand here as well, when you are growing, understand the why behind the what. Understand the why behind the what. I think that's what we lose. We see the what, but we forget the why. And when you forget the why, you start to complain about the what. You're focused on the what, and you've forgotten why. So remember the why behind the what, okay, when growing. And here's the thing I will tell you as well, that growth and comfort do not coexist. They do not coexist. I'm not going to be comfortable and grow at the same time. Either I'm going to be uncomfortable and grow, or I'm going to be comfortable and not grow, stagnant. But the choice, this is what I love about God, is always yours, because he says, I've placed life and death before you. I've called heaven to witness. So here's the thing. You're set up for success. Now you have to ask yourself, do I want to succeed? The only one, we go into this, the only one holding you back, the only one stopping you is your thinking. It's what you release in the atmosphere. It's how you feel about life. And so think about those kind of things. And this is where we need to get psychologically healthy, and we need to be in the right frame of mind, right? So growth is all about transformation, and this is what we can never forget. Growth is about transformation. You won't be the same or look the same. Here's the thing, guys. The procrastination with self is the most deadly thing to your own wellness. Don't be the one person in the room that is not growing, that's not evolving, that is not changing, right? So we're all getting the same thing. So we have to all apply the same thing so we can all grow. Don't be late with your homework. Your homework is self. That means your homework is when you leave here or after you watch this podcast is to go work on self and to think about self and how do I need to move forward. It's about transformation. And you feel good when you start to transform your life in a positive way in the right direction, right? Here's the thing that I love that the Messiah said. in Matthew chapter 7. He says, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. I love this statement because I don't think that we always remember what the Messiah said when he said that difficult is the way that leads to life. Here's the thing that you have to understand about growth. Growth is not easy, but it is rewarding. It's not easy, but it is rewarding. It comes with its own reward. And it gives the type of reward that no man can give you. It gives you the type of reward that doesn't really come through accolades or a paycheck or anything like that. It gives you sort of an internal reward, like this inside reward. It's internal, right? Reward. That's what it kind of gives you. It's like, why do I feel so good? Something's wrong. Why? Because you're evolving, you're changing, you're moving your life in the direction that God would have you go into. And you understand that? And so you just start to get joy. What do they say? Joy that's unspeakable. You start to have it and wake up with it because you know you are on a journey in the right direction. And once again, we're all under the gravity of God. Very important, right? So growth takes self-discipline, as we know, right? Discipline is easy when someone is watching. But true self-discipline is what you maintain when no one is watching. Okay? As long as I got someone watching and looking, are you doing the keto diet with me? Yes, we're doing it together. But it's when no one is watching. This is true self-discipline. And growth is in your self-discipline. Are you with me? So every time you push past the temptation to quit, you grow in your self-discipline. So there's these opportunities that will come that will make you want to quit and give up. But every time you push past these urges, these temptations, and you hold on one more day, you actually increase your self-discipline. So here's the thing. We're at the end. There are 3 takeaways that I want to give you guys today. The 3 takeaways is this right here. The first one is that failure is not final. Remember that. Failure is not final. I feel like you need to say that. You need to say that to yourself. Failure is not final, because I feel like sometimes we lose at things and we just want to quit those things and give up and say, I'm not even going to try anymore. Failure is not final, and we need to get that in our psyche. We need to get that in our minds. We need to develop that in our hearts and our spirits, right? Here's another thing. Develop an ear of success. That means listen to the things around you and see how God could be leading you to a place of success, how he could be leading you into a better place, right? And here's the other thing I'll say with that comment. Accept every word as helpful. Even the negative, toxic words, accept those as helpful, even if it is helping you to stay away from that person's voice. Accept everything as helpful. Realize that God is for you and not against you. That he is pushing you toward the mark, helping you hit the mark. So take every word that you hear as something that is helpful and useful to me in my walk and in my journey. And the third thing is this right here. Growth involves accepting the challenge to move forward. I'll say that one more time. Growth involves accepting the challenge to move forward. That's all I got, guys. Thank you guys for coming. So, yeah.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching and being a part of this community. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. You're going to get weekly videos on building a growth mindset, cultivating grit, and unlocking your full potential.